Hello and welcome, Leah.
Hello, Leah. So nice to be here.
Nice to virtually meet you. So, just so our viewers know, could you let us know who you are and what you do?
Okay, I'm Leah Welborn, and I go by the Mystic Autistic. So maybe that gives you a little bit of a hint. I'm a spiritual healer. I'm a Reiki healer. I am a recently diagnosed autistic woman. I'm 51 now. I was diagnosed when I was 49, and it has improved my life in so many ways I could never have expected. Uh, but to answer your question shortly, I'm a Reiki healer and I'm a writer.
Amazing. Okay, I'm dying to get into this topic now. So,
Great.
what made you get diagnosed?
I have always been a misfit. When I was a little child, I grew up in Texas. It's probably quite obvious I'm an American. I grew up in Texas, and your audience might appreciate this. I was obsessed with the British monarchy. I was about 5, 6 years old. It was when Diana was coming into prominence, and I lived in rural Texas, so it was not a thing to do to become obsessed with the British monarchy. And all of the other children castigated me because they wanted to play jump rope, and I wanted to talk about, Princess Margaret and her relationship with Princess Elizabeth, and it just was not did not go over well. So that's kind of set the stage. Throughout my life, I've always just been the odd one out, the strange person, the person who got multiple degrees but never could find a job that I felt excelled in, that I felt comfortable in, that I felt welcomed in. And finally, after years of struggling with what everyone supposed was depression and anxiety, it just became clear to me there's something else going on that is not being addressed. And it was actually a lot of literature that came out of England and a lot of women around my age who were being diagnosed, which is not something that I had been introduced to here in the United States. And so I talked to my I started to just identify as being neurodivergent, and then as things moved on and I started studying, I thought, this is autism. So I talked to my general practitioner, who I love dearly, and she knows me very well. And she kind of nodded as if to think, I thought she would say, yeah, I kind of have thought that too about you. So she put me in touch with a psychiatrist who she works with very closely. And immediately the diagnosis was just immediate. And it gave me the permission that I wish I hadn't needed all along to love myself and my weird, quirky brain. And that's why it's been such a wonderful thing for me, and why I highly recommend diagnosis for anyone who feels like that might be their situation.
Yeah.
Long answer.
Yeah. No, that's good. And it's so good nowadays with how much information there is out there because, I was scrolling on TikTok the other day and it's like every other post is you might have ADHD if blah blah blah, or you might be autistic if blah blah blah. So there's so much information out there. So it's nice to know that a lot of people are getting diagnosed. And I was gonna say actually, like, how do you think that improved being diagnosed? But I guess you said it just gave you the permission to be yourself.
Yes, and it's so funny, and my mom will often say, "Boy, you just talk about it all the time." If I can't get the right change, I'll tell the cashier, "I'm sorry, I'm autistic." It's almost like this badge of honor now that
Yeah.
I carry around, because I went for 48 years wondering what the hell is wrong with me. I'm a perfectly intelligent person, but I can't seem to make life work. And so it's just this joy that I have. I'm not crazy, I'm not stupid, I'm not a bitch, I'm not any of those things. I'm just autistic. I'm a little different. And
Yeah.
I have been able to accept the whole package of me so much better. And that's a little sad, because I wish I had been able to accept myself before, but I hope that my example will help other people say, I don't really care what's going on in my brain. I'm a good person and I'm okay. That's how I
Yeah.
hope people would feel about themselves.
Yeah. And I mean, we're all different, aren't we? And there's a lot of people out there that
Absolutely.
will have ADHD and autism and all these different things going around. And I think it's just learning how to deal with yourself, isn't it? But like you said,
Yes.
giving yourself that permission and being able to kind of justify it to people when they don't
Right.
understand is a good thing to have. I know that I know a lot of people with children who are going through the same thing, and it's not that we want to diagnose the kids, but it's also like we need to give them permission to be the way that they are because other people just don't understand. So yeah, very
Absolutely.
important. So
Absolutely. I read recently, I just want to put this one point
yeah,
in to help maybe if you have listeners or watchers or who have children or are in the same boat I was in. I recently read that neurodivergent autistic people take in on average 42% more information from our environments than neurotypical people. And so if you're wondering why we get a little confused and overwhelmed sometimes, there's a real good hint right there. Is we're processing a whole lot more. Um, just the temperature of the room, the sounds, that everything that people think that perhaps we're cold and unfeeling. No, we're being overwhelmed by feeling
mhm.
most of the time. And so I hope that that helps people understand the autistic people in their lives a little better.
Yes, yeah, I can definitely relate and understand that one, I must admit.
Yeah.
We were going through a stage of noticing my daughter and just noticing what's going on there. There's something, and then no, and then also realizing that that kind of thing can be hereditary as well. So it's like, okay, is this me or my husband that's like this? And I get overwhelmed by absolutely everything, and you can definitely see like little traits of something. None of us have got diagnosed. I do wonder whether we should go down that route, but for now, I'm just learning to kind of, I guess, understand my daughter and know what she needs. And I must admit, I'm getting a lot better at it because it is very, very difficult. She's a 6-year-old with very, very big emotions. And like you said, just takes in absolutely everything. And when you said then taking in like 40% more than the average person, like I can definitely see that in her. So
Yes.
yeah, it's good to know that. So thank you for that.
I just was so relieved by that. Again, it's just a little more information that helps me cope with thinking, why all through my life have I just been so bone tired at the end of the day? It's because I'm soaking in everything, and
Mhm.
it makes me feel more comfortable knowing, no, I'm not lazy. I'm actually super active, if
Yeah.
anything.
So that leads me into two questions.
Sure.
Firstly, um, I'll let you know the questions and then we'll go back to number one. The first question is going to be, what's your story about how
Okay.
you got into the more spiritual side? And then the second one is now going to be like, do you feel more spiritual because of the autism? Like if you say you take in 40% more than most people, does that mean you are realizing a little bit more about the spiritual world? So let's get back to your story first and how you got into it, and then
Okay.
we'll dive into the second part.
No, these are good questions. I'm excited. Okay. I have always been an extremely spiritual, a seeking person. When I was a very small child living in rural Texas, the only game in town was Christianity. That was it. There was no internet. There was no way to figure out that there was anything but Christianity. So my parents were not really observant, but I dove head in. I wanted a little Bible. I wanted a little cross. I wanted to go to church. I was into it. When I was 15 years old, a good friend of mine died in a drunk driving accident. He was a young boy and he was drunk. He was driving. Boys do very dumb things. Teenagers do very dumb things. I was heartbroken, and a lot of the other Christian children made it their job to tell me, sorry, your friend's in hell now, because he was drinking when he died.
Mm.
I was a smart enough child to think I want no part of any religion that's going to castigate a little boy to hell because he died drunk. So immediately I was on a search for something else because I could not live without having something in my life. I found the book Be Here Now by Ram Dass. It used to be called the Hippie Bible. And that was one of the first little pieces. Also, the book Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Just these little pieces of thinking, how can I find more? And I grew up pre-internet, so it was very difficult to find more. You just had to keep your eyes and ears open, which I'm good at as an autistic person. And I started finding I self-identified as a witch at 17, and I continue to call myself a witch. That is to me the spirituality that feels closest to me. It is aligned with energy. It is aligned with something much, 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 much older than monotheism. And to me, it is the true path of nature and energy and being an animal being in the
Mhm.
world. And that is the path that I continue to follow. I don't disparage anyone's path. I believe that monotheism is very, very limiting and limits people's possibility and their ability to connect with what is. However, again, everyone has their own path and much respect to whatever people are finding.
Mhm. Yeah. So how do you think that has, I guess you pretty much just answered that, didn't you? Like being autistic, that helped you dive into it a little bit deeper and try and find out as much as you could.
I actually have a theory. Oh
Let's
boy,
hear
I
it.
love to get into this one. Okay. So I really, really love well, I love history, but my favorite part of history has become prehistory. So pre-agriculture history is my favorite. I have the notion that humankind took a wrong turn at civilization. I feel like everything was beautiful in Garden of Eden before that. I feel like in that time, autistic people were the natural shaman, that autistic people were the people who connected the tribe with the great beyond. There were people who were talented in hunting, people who were talented in raising children, whatever. I feel like those of us who were born in that time were recognized as the spiritual leaders.
Mhm.
I feel like that has been my path in this lifetime, being born like, what do you got spiritual? Bible, give it to me, I want to look at it. Whatever, anything spiritual has always been, I've been drawn to it, and I have seen that so often in other neurodivergent people. I think that it is, we existed as hunter gatherers for a million years before we became civilized people, that we've been civilized for such a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of history. It's such a strong gene. It's still going so strong. And now we people who were the spiritual leaders naturally are castigated to the weirdos in the corner who sometimes have great skills at math and computers, but otherwise are just kind of weird. So
Yeah.
that's my belief.
I love that theory. I love it. So,
I think it's a natural fit for people to be in spiritual work on a heavy spiritual path if they are neurodivergent or
yes.
autistic.
Yeah, I can definitely see that for sure. Um,
Yeah.
yes, love that. Okay. So I know that you said before, I just want to talk about this just in case anybody else is suffering and you can have some advice. I know you said before that you went through a very hard time. I don't know if that's
Yes.
about the situation you just spoke about. Um,
Yes.
and at one point you were even considering taking your own life. Could you
I
talk a
had
little
been in
bit?
that place several times throughout my life. So yeah, if
Yeah.
anybody's there and has been there, I didn't think there was ever any way for me to be happy. I thought it was just something I'd done in a past life, maybe some weird genetic thing that I was just going to have to get through this life, grin and bear it, not much grinning, but bearing it, white knuckle it through through this life, and better luck next time. Um, and that's not the case anymore. For 4 years, I've been solidly happy. That has never happened in my life before. I had had moments of distraction from my misery,
Mhm.
and that is what I knew as happiness before this spiritual renaissance and before my diagnosis, which I see is going hand in hand, but now I am living in joy, which I thought was a myth. So I want anyone who's out there who thinks they're too old, they're too round the bend, they're too gone, they're too broke, they're too this, they're too that, scrap that. Screw it. That's not true. Wherever you are in your life, whatever is going on, you can turn it around. You can turn it around. That is the realest thing that I know, is that you can turn it around. You have to know. that you are the only person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Every single second of the rest of your life, no matter what is going to happen, you're going to be with you. And if that makes you think, oh God, then you got a lot of work to do, but you can do it. You can do that work and you can get to a place where you're like, I am swell by myself. I can, sure, whatever happens, I might say, ah, but then it's okay because I know I can go on. I did not think I could ever be in that place. I was like the lowest I have ever seen anybody be. So believe me, you can get out of whatever you are in. You have got to love yourself. You have got to love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, screw that. Nobody else is going to love you. Who cares? You're not going to be able to live with yourself. And that's the thing. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to live with yourself. Imagine having to live in a house, much less a body, with someone you hate. Can you
Mm.
imagine what a grueling life that would be? Just every single second. Oh my God, I hate this person. I hate this person. And if that's you, you got to make that your number one priority to get out of that spot. Whatever you got to do, get out of that spot.
I was going to say, what do you think would be the number one thing that you would like get somebody to do in that situation? Because I know it's very hard to focus on positive things. Like our brain constantly
Oh,
wants to keep
yeah.
us safe and it focuses on the negative so much.
Absolutely. Rumination is the easiest and the worst thing to get into. So you got to shut off that everything is bad. This is the story of my life. The story of my life is that I'm a loser and that I'm sad and that I can never be happy and that I'll never be. You got to stop that because that is a perma record in your head that is going to dictate your life. So you got to rewrite that and you got to get another story going. So the very first thing that I would say is get to know your nervous system. I had no idea what a huge role my nervous system was playing in my whole depressed, anxious extravaganza. Going back to the fact that we are living in a world that our bodies are not meant to live in, we were evolved to live as hunter and gatherers. We're
Mhm.
not evolved to live with ringing phones and traffic and I'm not even saying it's bad. I'm just saying we're not evolved to live in it. And so knowing the fact that your body is reacting like a tiger is chasing you every time somebody says a cross word to you, you're going to be upset all the time. And that's not your fault. That's your nervous system. So when you come into understanding, you've got your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. Your parasympathetic nervous system is where you want to be. You want to be able to relax and digest. You don't want to be in freeze, fight, flight all the time because that is going to wear you out and make life miserable. So take a little time to educate yourself about the nervous system. I mean, you can do this in half an hour. You don't have to like get a PhD on it or anything. And then just think about what's going on. Think about how you're being activated and learn your own ways to calm that down. Tapping is a huge one for me. I love tapping. Breathing is another one. Everybody has their own little internal cues, and you're going to have to spend the time to get to know them. But guess what? You're the only one that can do it. And that's the really cool thing because that's your job. That is why you're here on this earth is to figure your own shit out. Sorry if I'm not,
No,
but
no, it's
your
fine.
stuff. Okay. Figure your own stuff out. You don't have any responsibility to anybody else. Yes, if you've got kids, you've got a responsibility to them. But if you do this stuff, their stuff is going to fall into line.
Mhm.
I don't have kids, but I have seen this happen a million times. And just knowing, going from being the miserable person, I would have been the worst parent in the world just because I hated myself so much. I would have felt sorry for my child for being my child. How terrible would that have been? But now, where I am now, I mean, I'm past the age, but I could be a great mom now because I'm so in love with myself and I could just be like in wondrous love with a child, like I am with life now. So know your nervous system. And if you're going to go the woo way, like I am, get to know your spirit guides. They're there and they're there for you. And they have been there every second of your life. And all you got to do is say, help me. And they will come running in and say, okay, here's what you got to do. Here's what you got to do. And it's fantastic and it's fabulous. And it's the funniest thing because once you get in it, and you can say it's your higher self. You can say it's part of your brain. I don't care what you say it is. I don't care what it is. It works. And they're there for me every single time I'm worried or afraid or scared. They've got a little joke. They've got a little something, a memory, and it's magic. And you just have to ask.
Mhm.
The Christians say, Jesus, take the wheel, whatever. prayer is beautiful, but there is something there, whether it's in your brain, out in the world, whatever. There's something there, and it's going to work with you if you ask it to, and it's going to be beautiful. So
Yes.
that's my advice.
That is amazing advice. And that, like you said, there's so many different ways to activate your parasympathetic nervous system as well. And
Yeah,
like this is why a lot of people will say go out in nature, because nature,
absolutely.
like you said, that
Hmm.
is the way we should be living. So that is
Hmm.
why when we step into nature, it feels so good. And our bodies crave that. This is why everyone wants to go on
Yes,
holiday or, go sit in the garden. So
right.
even just doing something like that, sitting in the garden or, just taking a moment of peace is really, really great to do. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, what would you say is your like spiritual daily routine? Like is there a little routine that you do for your spiritual side?
You bet. As an autistic neurodivergent person, routines are everything to me.
Hmm.
I have a habit tracker on my phone. It's an app, and I get to check off the little things that I do. I have 8 set in stone habits I have to do every day. I say have to, but I love to do them. Um, First thing in the morning, I do my magical morning routine. And I have to say, this is after I get up and pee and let my dog out and get my tea. Because
Yeah.
back in the days when I was so depressed, I would think, well, that counts me out. I have to pee first thing in the morning, so I can't do anything first thing in the morning. I mean, our brains will give ourselves these negative excuses to get out of things that are really good for. So anyway, I get up, I pee, get my tea, take my dog out. I meditate for 10 minutes to a guided meditation. I do a different one every day on the Insight app.
Mhm.
Then I do a little tapping routine that I do. Have a little script that I do and I tap. Then I do a little directional prayer. It sounds like it takes a whole long time. This all takes like 12 minutes. And then I shake. I just shake, 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 shake. That's a parasympathetic nervous trick thing. Dogs do it. Animals do
Mhm.
it. Shake, shake, shake. Just kind of change the mood. So I do that every morning. And then I have 2 exercise times of 20 minutes each that I do during the day, and I that is like a mental health routine as much as anything. I either walk or I bounce at a trampoline or I do yoga, and I read an inspiring book every day. Not an entire book, of course, but read from an inspiring book every day, and I write some every day. And I meditate every night then before I go to bed. So that's pretty much fills up the day
Yeah.
with
A lot of stuff, but stuff that
Yes,
doesn't take too long. Like you said, like the
exactly,
morning
right,
routine's 12 minutes. It's not
right.
an hour long. Yeah. Yeah. So
No, no,
it's,
no,
it's
not at all.
easy things to fit in. And I love that you mentioned the tapping as well, because that's another thing for anyone who is struggling, is that when you are constantly thinking negative, which is very, very easy to do, tapping is
Mm,
mostly, hopefully I'm getting this right, more positive things. So as you tap, you're
yes,
saying these positive things, and your body will take in whatever you say. So if you're constantly talking negative about yourself, that's going to be getting into you. You're going to start believing it. Whereas if you can change that,
exactly,
and every time you think of something negative, say something positive instead. And actually, a
right.
really good tip that I don't know. I heard the other day somewhere, might be somebody on my podcast maybe, but they were saying, look at how, for anyone who's got kids, look at how you treat your kid and notice that you probably wouldn't treat yourself that way. Like, just as an example, I've just put my daughter to bed before this, and I'm like, you're not having any sugar. You can have an apple before bed. Whereas I'll come down, then I'll munch some biscuits. So it's like I'm making sure she is healthy and looked after, and I'm not doing the same to myself. So it's kind of
Right.
looking at that as well, and I guess treating yourself a little bit better. And all these spiritual
Absolutely.
practices that don't take
Yeah.
long, they can help shift your mindset and help you take better care of yourself. And I love that you mentioned the yoga. So what kind of yoga do you do?
Well, I used to be an Ashtanga yoga teacher, but I don't really do that anymore. It's a little hardcore for me
Yeah.
these days. I do some basic hatha stuff. I also have a yoga trapeze set up. So it's like aerial yoga.
Yes. Love that.
And I love that because hanging upside down is so calming for me.
Hmm.
I can just hang. for the longest time. So I really, really enjoy doing just some inversions and just kind of swinging upside down. It's really it's fun and it's odd and it's great for your upper body too to hoist
Yes.
yourself up and
And
it's
calming your nervous
incredibly
system.
absolutely. Yeah, it's the best kind of when I was younger, I would try to go to the gym, and that was another one of those things that just felt like such a failure to me because I was so uncomfortable. The environment is so bright and loud and the clanking and I just thought, "Well, what am I just like a lazy person?" But it's not it. I just had to find my thing, and that's what
Mhm.
I hope that people will come to appreciate. Is that it's just there is something for everybody.
Yes. Yeah,
One
there's
size fits all is a complete lie.
yeah.
It's the biggest
Yeah,
lie in the world.
definitely. So
Yeah,
many different ways to do everything. And like you said with yoga, there's so many there's aerial yoga where you're literally hanging from the ceiling. You don't have to just go and do some stretching. Like so many different
exactly.
things. I've been absolutely dying to get a yoga trapeze, but my husband's not sure whether it's going to hold in our ceiling, but I'm hoping it will.
Well, I got from Amazon, just a frame. It's a big metal frame. It's like a
I
swing
have
set
seen those.
frame, and it
Yeah.
hangs from that, and
Yeah.
it's perfectly stable. It's great,
Ah,
and I can take it
okay.
outside too in the backyard when
Ah,
it's
okay. There you go.
warm.
That's sorted then, because then my daughter can get on
There you
that and
go.
get out some of her little quirks.
There you go, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, your little girl can use it too. Yeah, I love it.
Awesome.
It's my favorite thing I've ever bought, actually. I hang on it every day.
Ah, I know what I'm doing
And I
after
have my
this.
little mini trampoline right beneath it, so I'll, like, drop
Yes.
down and bounce and bounce and bounce. It's very stimmy for
Yeah.
autistic people who like to stim. It's a beautiful
Yes.
stimmy thing. Yeah.
Very, very, very good. Amazing. So I ask everybody this. So it doesn't have to be about what we've spoken about today. It can be anything at all. But what are three pieces of advice that you wish you knew that you could let everybody else know now?
Oh gosh, I've probably already told you, get to know your nervous system, understand your
Mhm.
nervous system. Wow, that is a game changer. It's I don't know how British education is, but American education is not great. And the nervous system is just not I mean, we might go over it in biology, but that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking
It's
about
about the
like
same
day to
here.
day.
Mhm.
Exactly. Not like the cells or this and that. I'm talking about like, no, a user's manual, right?
Mhm.
Get to know your nervous system. What makes you, and not just nervous, but what triggers you? What triggers your joy? What triggers your anger? What triggers everything? And I guess to go on to that a little bit more, do shadow work. Get to know the ugly, icky, parts of you that you don't want anybody to see. Get to know them real well and get to feel
Mhm.
comfortable with them because they're your little, you can think of them as your little pets or your little demons or whatever. But if you try to shut them out, they're going to leak out in ugly ways all through your life. Get to know your shadows and your ego and know when your ego's triggered and be able just to say, I am so proud of myself that I'm able now to just say in conversation sometimes, "Oh god, that was my ego. I'm sorry. That was a really rude thing to say. Rewind. Okay, let's try that again." And when you're able to know that about yourself and understand ego is just a natural part of being a human being, it's very irritating to me when I hear people say, "Oh, I killed my ego." Well, then you would be walking around in the street like a dog or a cat with no clothes on, biting people. I mean, that's just your ego is what keeps everything together in this
Mhm.
human suit, you know? So, but you got to train it. It's a guard dog for you. So train it and don't let it get the better of you because it can ruin your life and the lives of everyone around you. But if you train it like a guard dog, it will be a nice part of your life. So
Yes.
that would be, yeah, train your ego, get to know your nervous system and get to know your spirit guides.
Yeah. I love that. Amazing
Yeah.
pieces of that of advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And a lot of people are like, "Whoa, you lost me with the spirit guides." And I say, then think of it as a part of your own brain that's there
Mhm.
waiting to help you that you've not tapped into yet. We've shown Science has shown so many times we don't use all our brain. Well, this is a way to maybe get in there and use part of it that you're not utilizing and that could really help you out.
Hmm.
Call it call it Doug in your brain, call it God, call it your spirit guide, whatever you wanna call it, utilize it.
Yes. Yeah. And if you
Yeah.
haven't tried yoga and meditation and all that stuff, give that a try because I used to
Oh,
find,
absolutely.
yeah, I used to find that I was really uncomfortable with meditation. And it was because I
Me
wasn't
too.
comfortable sat with myself. That's all it was.
Oh,
So,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
just worth trying all these different things and just, going through them, noticing what comes up for you. So, I've loved
Yes,
this
yeah.
talk. This has been an amazing talk.
Oh,
So,
this has been wonderful. I feel like I could talk to you for another couple of hours, but
I
I
know
know
I was
yeah,
just looking
it's
at the
late
time, like,
night there,
I could keep
it's the
going.
middle of the day here.
Where can people find you to work with you? Because I know you do Reiki
Yes,
and all this like tapping into yourself and into the more spiritual side. So if anybody is wanting to get a little bit more of that, where
you
can they
bet.
find you?
LeahWelborn.net, LeahWelborn.net. And I also on my link tree, which you can find there at Leah Welborn. I'm on all the social medias. I really like to make goofy videos that illustrate different points. So I have videos that I hope you'll find entertaining. They're very silly, and I'm often dancing and being absurd. So, but
That's
it's
what we like
always
to
with a
see.
good message.
Yeah, that's what we like to see. It's nice to see people being themselves and just having fun rather than just sat talking and that's that. So
Yeah,
yeah, we
well,
like
I
that.
think that this world discourages that, but I do see I love the youth. The youth, oh, they're so gorgeous and they're so beautiful and they're just changing the paradigm and I love it and I'm following their lead in a lot of ways.
Yep. Amazing. So I will leave all of your links down below. So for anybody, if you have any questions about this talk, please feel free to give me or Leah a message. And if you would like to contact her or work with her, all the links are down below. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leah.
Thank you.